It's really nice to meet you.
Yeah, it's nice to meet you too. So how often do you do this
Um,
podcast?
for our first, we record now. We just record one Sunday a month. Now we do two shows a month. For the first year and a half, we recorded every other Sunday, so we were doing shows 4 Sundays, 4 shows a week, a month
Yeah.
rather. And then after about a year and a half, because everyone has families and they were getting a little burned out, like we just want a little downtime. And I also do another podcast. I'm on Sane Radio.
Yeah.
So and that is like every other week. So we just all decided we took like 2 months off. And then when we came back, we just said, let's just record one Sunday a month. And that way everyone has a weekend free. They can just kind of do stuff with their family. Um, so that's where we've been doing for the last year or so. We just recorded like one Sunday a month.
Yeah,
But
it's
this is
it's
like a special thing because I know this is your time because Sundays are your creative time. So we're happy to meet you.
so you say creative time, I say drinking time, but
One and the same, right?
one of them they can very much be one and the same. I would say actually most songs probably start walking home from the pub and singing to myself, maybe.
Nice.
Yeah, so it's probably not a great admission, really. It shouldn't be not good for the kids.
Well,
They
we
used
can right. We can I can take all this out. If there's
Oh, it's
anything
fine.
that you want.
I don't give a shit.
Okay. No, that's
Um,
good. All right, that's good. That's
no,
good.
no, no. You leave in whatever. I'm happy to be have the consequences for my words. But
Well, we are yeah, I'll wait till Dread gets in so because we want to talk about your album, but um we have been when we started doing this show, we're just a bunch of longtime friends and we
yeah,
just decided let's do something where we could just sit around and talk about the things we love. And it wasn't until like the pandemic where we are you familiar with the band Nile, the American death metal band
yeah.
Nile?
Annihilation of the Wicked is one of my favorite ever albums.
Yeah, well, Carl Sanders, who I'd met, at Nile shows, super nice guy, was doing guitar lessons online during the pandemic because no one could tour, nothing was going on, for $30 for a half an hour. And I'm like, hey, Carl, if I paid you for an hour, would you come on our podcast for an interview? It's like, oh yeah. I'm like, holy fuck, we're going to talk to Carl Sanders. So, and that long story short, that's once we got him, we're like, well, who else can we get? And then the whole show turned into us just talking about music to us beginning interviewing, rock celebrities and things like that, which just has blown our mind.
I guess
And
it's the way to get a following because it's sort of a strength by association, isn't it? You use the power of their audience to get yours.
yeah, and then just having that time, that one-on-one time, which you normally would never get in a concert situation. If you had a backstage pass, you might spend a few minutes with someone, but you're never gonna be able to just talk with them and ask them questions and things. And then I became friends with Nikki Law at she worked for Metal Blade and became friends with the PR rep at Metal Blade. They started sending us albums and then started being PR for us and asking other artists to come on our show. And it just has
Yeah.
snowballed. Um, it's just amazing the people we've got a chance to talk to and become friends with and keep in communication with. It's beyond anything we could have ever imagined. Um, so this is
Who's been the
exciting.
favorite? Who's been the favorite so far?
Oh, that's hard to say. I think maybe or an early interview for Eric Wagner from the band Trouble, and the Skull because he was someone
Uh,
I
is that a Doom band?
yeah yeah
Yeah, yeah, I know. Yeah, that is that the. Yeah, I think I know. I think I know.
yeah. Well, he came on the show. He was so cool. It was like our second interview. We were nervous as fuck, and but he put us at ease. It was such a cool guy, and they were getting ready to go on tour, and like a few weeks later, he died of COVID.
Oh,
And it
you're joking. That is
It
awful.
was. We were heartbroken. I'm like, this was like the last interview that he had done, and I was like, oh my God. He was like, I won't say hero, but I just really looked up to Trouble. I love that band. But I think sentimentally that one might be my favorite. But we have met so many wonderful people. Nibs Carter from Saxon, um, Matt Thompson, the drummer for King Diamond. Carl came back on the show. The guys from Sorcerer, Justin Biggs and Christian Nyman from Sorcerer, are friends. Jag Panzer is a huge supporter of our show. There've just been so many people we have gotten to meet it just kind of stymies us, that we continue to talk with these guys,
Yeah.
and maintain relationships with them on social media, which is amazing. So yeah.
Who's the dream then? Who's the dream guest?
Ah, well, I think one of our dream guests is scheduled to come on. King Diamond is supposed to
Ah,
come on.
that
Yeah,
is so good.
that's going to be amazing. I
What's
would
his real
love to
name?
talk with Opeth, Michael Eckerfeld.
Yeah.
Would love to talk with him. And I have an in route through him I've not used, but I'm just gonna hold that close to my chest in case, and, if I guess I really need it. But yeah, Diamond's gonna be one of those guests where I'm gonna be like, oh fuck, okay, this is King Diamond.
Well, I think if you, I mean, let's be honest, if you could get King Diamond, you could probably get Mike.
I would hope so.
I
So,
actually do have Andy Farrow's email, but he's their manager.
mm,
Um, he is quite. I mean, he might. It might. Steve Joe at Prosthetic as well might, because he did. He helped release. I think like Blackwater Park and
okay,
Deliverance and Damnation. I'm pretty sure. So
yeah.
you want to put the feelers out there as well.
Oh,
I think.
yeah, that'd be awesome. I'd love to talk with Tatiana Schmeiluk from Ginger.
Oh yeah, I think she's pretty cool actually, because
Yeah.
James with her on the Decapitated record. They did it. She did a song with them.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Apparently, she's really nice.
Yeah, yeah, she's awesome. Um, you know, I think having someone on from Iron Maiden would be
I
amazing. And
wonder who would be most likely. I hear what's the bassist called? Apparently, he's really cool. Uh, shit, what's Steve Harris?
oh, Steve Harris. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, yeah. Apparently, it's pretty cool.
yeah. I've met the guys a couple times. I had the backstage passes. My friend's uncle was the live sound engineer, Doug Hall. So I got
Nice.
to meet him, but it's one of those things where you get your 5 minutes, and you know, it was still kind of awesome. I was definitely in the fanboy moment,
Yeah,
and the first time you meet someone like, oh my God, I was like 25 or something. I'm like, oh fuck, this is Iron Maiden.
yeah,
Um,
yeah.
and yeah, I've met them a couple times since, which was, on Bruce's solo tour on the Accident of Birth tour, which was kind of cool. We were just walking out the venue coming back, and then his promoter said, "Hey, you guys want to meet the band?" I'm like, "Well, of course we want to meet." So we got upstairs, and there's Bruce and Adrian and the whole band. I'm like, "Oh, okay, cool." Everyone was getting a chance to talk to him. And I,
That's
I,
a,
got- I got to ask him, I said, "What happened to Maiden? I mean, after Seventh Son, what happened? Because you
oh,
guys were at the pinnacle of your power, and then No Prayer for the Dying and Fear the Dark." I'm like, "Yeah, man, you guys just like burn." And he's like, "Yeah, it was kind of like a sinking ship." He said there were some people in the band, he wouldn't name names. Some people in the band wanted to go to more of a classic rock sound, and he goes, "I knew it was a sinking ship, and I had to get out." I'm
yeah,
like, "Okay," but that was just it was very candid, you know. Um, yeah, so there's a lot of people I'd love to meet. I think if there was in a perfect world, if I could go back and have a time machine, my number one bucket list would be Neil Peart, just because he was so
yeah,
inspirational to me as a musician.
yeah.
And I'd love to get Alex Lifeson on. I'd probably just sob, like a little girl. And it's just because Rush has been my favorite band since I can remember. Just their music is just so meaningful to me, and as a musician, and it's just been consistent, and I just want to be just thanks, just say thanks. Yeah, that's all. But
Yeah.
I'll be dumbstruck, you
It's
know.
funny actually. I've never really. I mean, I've met a few. I've met a few like. I wouldn't say rock stars, but like Mike from Opeth and Tesseract guys and Alsus, and I've never once been starstruck though from them. It's weird. Which actually it doesn't really work that well because I talk to them like a normal person. I because I just don't really. I'm not I'm not like a rude person,
Hmm.
but I'm quite blunt and
That's good. I like that. Well, this show has done more to make me not feel intimidated, or feel that sense of stardom, than I think anything otherwise, because now we know so many of them, and we realize they're just people. We've not had any kind of rock star attitude. There's no assholes. No one's been prima donnas. And now I just feel completely comfortable and relaxed and could just be myself,
Yeah.
and which is nice. But it's kind of staggers, for Dreadbull and me, this is still amazing to be able to just talk with the people we admire and to get to know them a little bit and find out about their creativity and their music and just have them in a show that's going to be something different than the 10 questions they're probably going to get from most interviews. We try to do different things.
Yeah, yeah,
And so, but I know you have only an hour, so
yeah.
so
Like, yeah. Well, let's see, because um, yeah, let's see
yeah,
how we do.
okay. Um, So yeah, I'm gonna pull up something real quick while we're recording. Dred, I'll let you talk with him. I'm gonna pull up the Wheel
Hi,
of
Dred.
Mystery.
Nice to meet you.
Yeah, you too. Thank you so much for coming on. I really appreciate this.
Oh, no, it's fine. Pleasure. I
Where are
see.
we
I
at?
wish my room was more dimly lit, like yours, Dred, but I can't get the daylight out of mine right now. So
Oh, yeah,
my
I like
false,
the dim lighting.
my false little background.
But how about we'll go ahead and do our introduction, which is amazing, and then
Amazing. Yeah, you'll see.
we'll get on. We'll start our show if that's good with you.
Yeah, yeah. By all
All
means.
right,
All right, here we
fire
go.
up the cheesy introduction.
Yes.
Hey, this is Robbie Rainey with Possessor and Carriage, and you are listening to Heavy Metal Horror!
I am Montag, master of illusion. What goes up must come down, but not always.
And I am Dreadbull, master of nothing.
You are watching and listening to Heavy Metal Horror. Oh, kitties. We've got a very special show today. We've got him from the band Sermon. Him. Thank you for joining us on Heavy Metal Horror today.
Gentlemen, it is my pleasure.
Before we get into the questions, I have to say I fucking love of Golden Verse. I cannot listen to it enough. It is one of the most exciting and dynamic and interesting albums that I've heard in a very long time. So just not to heap empty praise, but it's astounding. It's just a phenomenal album.
Thank you so much. It doesn't really, it doesn't, I mean, after the first, few weeks of release, it kind of just disappears from my life entirely. So yeah, it's nice to hear. Thank you.
Our pleasure. Oh, we like to start with some basic kind of background kinds of questions. So before we move on to our more exciting things, so let's look at you. Like, when did you first get into music?
That's a good question. You know what it was actually? I lived across the road from one of my friends, and his dad basically just they had a spare ticket to see a band called Placebo. I don't know if you've heard of them, but they're kind of I guess they're kind of like a sort of alt punky type band. And I must have been about 13, and he took me to see this gig, and it was my first gig ever, and it just blew my mind. I'd never heard anything like that. I'd never felt sound go through my body in that way. So that was kind of my first experience, and because of that, he was like, "Oh well, if you would like to, next month we're going to see a band called Opeth." And it was at the Shepherd's Bush Empire, and I think they did their DVD called Lamentations.
Yes.
I think I was about 13 or 14 at the time, and I'm 35 now, so it was a fucking long time ago. And he gave me some of the albums to listen to, and I didn't understand the vocals. I just thought they sounded stupid until he sung. I like the singing bit, but I thought that the death metal vocals were dumb. And then when I saw him do it live, when he was transitioning between the roaring and the singing, will never forget just being so blown away that a person could do that and play guitar with songs that were like 10 minutes long. So that changed my life, and that's pretty much where I picked up a guitar from. So a lot of the way I play is very similar to how Mike from, I mean, I'm nowhere near as good as him, but there's little things that I will do like him. Like I finger pick very similarly to him. I use a lot of the same chords. I try to avoid doing like kind of Opeth riffing where it's like 3/4, like that kind of thing, or like octave riffs and stuff, but to sort of distance myself a bit. But yeah, in the DNA is Opeth very, very through and through, I would say. So that's how I started, really.
That prog influence is there, that metal, that darkness, I think, and ultimately that very melodic approach to writing music is there.
The contrast of the two, I think, is what always was great. Because I guess in a way, I don't really want to listen to something all the time that's completely brutal. I want moments of like reprieve in a way. That's a word, or did I just make it up?
Yeah, no, I think so. If
Yeah,
not,
I think
it's a
we're
good
very
word.
much
Yeah.
we're very much the same way. We've had that conversation about some of the death metal, some of the relentlessly heavy death metal. It gets a little taxing, after a certain amount of time, and we love the music that gives you a breather. We love
Yeah,
death metal, but you need a breather in there. You need a chance to catch your breath before they launch back into something really super aggressive. And
well, there's bands that sort of do it really well and really brutally. Like we were saying, Annihilation of the Wicked. I think that's got some really stunning sound moments where it opens up, especially like the title track, for example. And actually, the new Blood Incantation song, the ending of that song is unreal. It's just beautiful, and heavy. So I love that. I love the two. I love the
You hear
epic.
that a lot in Golden Verse. On Golden Verse, you get that. Was it? I'm sure I'm butchering the name, but Senescence, is that
Oh, it's Senescence, yeah.
Senescence? Okay, yeah, because that one, it's a break from the other. It was something like
Yeah.
blast beats going before this, and it's such a majestic and swelling songs. There's all those wailing vocals and very tribal rhythms, and then you have this Senescence, which is kind of beautiful and soft and quiet and dreamy.
You
You
know
know,
what song that's ripped off of, right? Is Michael Jackson Earth Song.
really?
oh,
Yeah,
Huh.
I did. I
okay.
wanted. I really like the in Michael Jackson's Earth Song. He kind of does the and so there's like, and then he goes into oohs, and I just wanted a chorus where it's like ahs and oohs. So that was my kind of version of it.
Oh,
But
nice.
the premise of the song is more or less the same, I would say, except maybe a little bit more ballady and heavy at the end. I actually don't think that song's quite finished. I don't think I
Oh,
ever finished it properly. It needed
okay.
something else, and I don't know what it is. I still can't think of what it is. But that is
Well,
the nature of the beast, really.
one day it'll come to you, and then you'll finish it. Just don't George Lucas it. Just don't ruin it. Um, so
Mm.
you've mentioned some of people you admire musically, but you wouldn't say they're heroes. But have you been able to meet any of these people? And if so, who these heroes are, for lack of a better word, and what was that meeting like, and how has it influenced you when fans or people come up to you, um, if at all?
Doesn't really happen because no one. The only experience of that I have is it's probably through social media. Actually, the other week I went to see a band called Mutoid Man, and we ended up going to a bar afterwards. And I didn't meet the band or anything, but a friend of a friend essentially was drinking with us, and I was like, "Oh, hey man, how you doing?" And it got onto the discussion of music, and then my friends were like, "Oh, he's in a band," and I'm like, yeah." And then I said which it was, and he was like, "Whoa, wait, this?" And then he opened up his Spotify, and he's like, "I'd listen to this all the time." That is the only experience in 6 years that I've ever had of anything like that. So
Is
I
it
don't know. In terms of meeting other people, I have never met any of my core heroes, I would say. I don't think I've never, I mean, I've in passing met Mike from Opeth. I met Stephen Wilson, but he's quite quiet. But no, I've not. I would like to. I think I'd probably make a fool of myself. I don't mind.
When King Diamond comes on, would you like to come on the show and meet him as well?
So I actually really like King Diamond. I love Merciful Fate.
Mhm.
I think I just wouldn't know what to contribute, really.
Yeah, I think we feel the same sometimes.
Exactly.
You know?
What I'd like to ask him actually is like how did he develop his technique for singing, and how does he keep it up? Because he's no spring chicken, is he? He's like
Yeah.
60 years old, right?
Right. Yeah. I mean, he
He's
sounds really, well, he had surgery. He had cancer and then had surgery. And I think he sounds better now than he did a decade ago. You know, his power and range is back, kind of like Bruce Dickinson, you know, post surgery, you know, he got his throat cancer taken care of and now he comes back and he's good as ever, you know?
those guys that can do that high falsetto thing. I
Yeah, it's amazing.
I, I would just end up asking them. I'd be like, "Can you just teach me how to do it?"
Yeah. Yeah.
Like Rob Halford, I would love to meet Rob Halford. Actually, I love Judas Priest.
Yeah. Well, Tim Ripper Owens is coming on, you know, who took over for Rob Halford, and they have a similar vocal styling. But yeah, Rob Halford, it's yeah, he's one of those metal legends. You know, I get it.
Yeah.
He's a lovely man as well, which I've got a lot of respect for.
Yeah, for everything I've seen. Oh, go ahead, Brett.
I was just going to ask, like, speaking of other musicians, is there any musicians you'd love to collaborate with, make a song with, or a one-off, or whatever, a guest appearance?
There is actually, but there wouldn't be any metal people really. James, the drummer, is always quite keen to, you know, suggest things like that. But my problem with it is I don't really want. I don't know. I wouldn't like a sermon song with Mike from Opeth on it, even though I love that guy. I just don't think it really adds to the song. It just feels like a bit of a, I know I'm sat here in a mask, but a gimmick in a way.
Mm-hmm.
So I think I'd probably want to do it with someone who had nothing to do with metal. I would very much like to do like write or like have like a secret writer. That's what I'd like. So someone who had nothing to do with metal and then doesn't even get credited for it. So something like Justin Vernon from Bon Iver, I think he's got an amazing sense of sound. I wouldn't mind someone like Ed Sheeran actually.
Oh,
to sit in on a
interesting
studio session and be like, maybe try it like that, or maybe do this or that. I really welcome a completely different perspective.
Yeah. He seems like the nicest guy in the world. I can't stand his music, but he seems like the nicest guy in the world.
So interestingly enough, I record sermon albums with Scott Atkins of Grindstone Studios, and he does the Cradle of Filth records. And Ed Sheeran is a big fan of Cradle of Filth, so they've done a song. And Scott, I don't know if I'm allowed really to say this, but well, fuck it, you can tell me off afterwards. Basically, Ed came to Scott's studio, which is a tiny little thing, and it's, you know, it's not multi-million-pound venue like Ed Sheeran's probably used to. He apparently just turned up. He's the most normal guy in the world, smashed out a few takes, and that was it. And then took him to the pub for lunch. and Scott was like, he's a really cool guy for someone who is probably a bigger name as you can get in the world of music. I would say of pop music anyway. He's up there with like Taylor Swift, and so it's pretty cool that he's as grounded as he is, I think.
I mean, we'd love to talk to him just because I mean, I can't, I don't like the stuff he writes about, but I just see him and I'm like, I can see why people like him. He's a likable person, you know, just like Taylor Swift seems to be a pretty decent, normal person, you know, but you never know. But
they're like ordinary people that live in unordinary life.
Yeah, that's it. I think that's a good in a nutshell. Yeah. Let's steer back to your creativity and your creative process when you're writing and when you're thinking about music and lyrics. Can you tell us a little bit about an insight into how you create your music?
Yeah, it usually starts with drums, I would say. When it gets to like the formal writing bit, I always have like a library of riffs in my brain. But I don't let a riff determine a song. I try to let the drums and the pace and the pulse determine where the song goes. I, as I mentioned to you just before we started the show, I find that I come up with ideas when I'm drunk walking home from the pub. So I have on my phone like recordings of me sort of drunkenly singing into it. I actually listened to some today, and it's embarrassing for sure. It's really embarrassing, but there are some catchy melodies in there that it's good not to let go of. So that's kind of how I would approach songwriting. But it's also I've said it elsewhere. Songwriting is a little bit like a annoying companion. You just can't. You either can't stop it or you can't get hold of it. At the moment, I can't get hold of it. I've got ideas, but I just can't. I haven't got a clear vision. But it will come eventually.
Yeah, there's only so much creativity you can get. You have to have moments of break in between, you know. I mean, so
Yeah.
is you start the music with or songs with drums? Is that why there's the drums are so prominent in the mix and it's a percussive sound? I'm a drummer. I've been playing drums most of my life, so I listen to these things. I'm like, wow, the drums are really prominent in this, and that tribal focus in those rhythms. It's like drum heavy and then vocals because the vocals are there another instrument. I mean, other instruments are there, but it's prominently vocals and percussion. So is that it must be an intentional kind of thing with you? It's a
It
really
is.
unique
Yeah,
sound.
I think I try to think of beat as melody in a way. So rather than just relying on a guitar riff to sort of carry the song, I just think there's something with a beat that just it drives a human, you know. I don't know if I've hit the recipe yet, because I think a lot of you could accuse the drumming in the tribally bits to be like Danny Carey from Tool.
Hmm. When
That's
we
not a
did our
bad thing.
review, we heard those kinds of elements. And again, they borrow from that same. And again, it's not new. It's very tribal. It's syncopation. It's whirling. It's hypnotic, and its rhythms are pulsating through the album. So I don't think Tool has they don't have the corner on it, but it's a similar sound. But you've got your own way of
Yeah.
expressing this, but it's so very unique in the world of rock and heavy music to have that, and that's what I drew me to it immediately, and then the emotion that can't comes through your vocals, that wailing quality that comes through is very primal and it's raw at times, and I really just it speaks to me in a lot of ways that a lot of other music is entertaining, but there's something about this that makes me just want to kind of go for the ride, about your album. Um,
It's a it we try I try quite hard to make sure there's not more in the mix than can be played live, which I might change on the next album. I feel like I need to break out of the shell somewhat, but a big part of that is having a good, strong fundamental for drums. And actually, I'm pretty sure Tool or Danny Carey would be not self-conscious, but if you listen to Discipline by King Crimson, that's Tool, isn't it?
mhm.
The time signatures, the instrumentation of it, that is, if you listen to that, you will be like, that's Tool. So they've really developed that and taken it to another place. And I wouldn't mind trying to do something similar and take it a step further, maybe.
Mhm.
How to do it. There is an artist called Woodkid who on his first album did a very good sort of version of beat becoming melody and it being quite tribal. And live it's fantastic because it's like an orchestra percussion like group of people, and it's so heavy, but there's no distortion.
Yeah, you'd almost need to, I think, have
Would you
multiple.
just excuse me a second? I
Oh,
think
sure.
Sure.
Hello? Amazon guy.
Nah,
And it's probably not even for me anyway, so I'm just a good citizen. It's just my first.
I wanted to, your album cover
Yeah.
was, I thought, in its simplicity, but it also connecting with the name Sermon. It's like a mandala in the shape of a vimana. I mean, it's just this Hindi mysticism and spiritualism.
Bear with me a sec.
Oh, sure.
No.
yeah, that's a really interesting album cover.
Hmm.
It's a lot of detail going on there.
Yeah, I mean, I'm watched Ancient Aliens enough to see a vimana,
Right. Exactly.
and then the mandala. It's like it all kind of works together,
Uh-huh. Yeah.
And I saw that, I'm like, okay, that's cool.
Sorry, guys. Sorry about that. I had to unveil myself, otherwise I think the police would have been called.
Yeah, I don't want that.
Yeah.
Sorry, please continue. Sorry about the interruption.
Oh, that's fine. No, I
Not
was
a
just
problem.
asking about the album cover.
Yeah.
It looks like
Mhm.
we have a mandala in the shape of a vimana, and I was wondering if this was along with the name, your band name Sermon, if this part of this overall like mystic or religious or spiritual, Hindi kind of imagery. Is this something that you were intentionally weaving into the album, or is this just like you saw the cover? I'm like, yeah, that's the one.
I have spent a long time trying to figure out what the cover was going to be. It took months because I did it myself, and not that I wanted to actually. But the thing is, getting artists is very, very expensive, and I wasn't sure of what I wanted and how much I wanted. Like, I wanted the physical package to work as a sequence, essentially, which actually I do have here. I don't know if you guys have actually got the vinyl,
No.
but
You
basically,
don't have vinyl.
so it starts off as like this kind of door. You probably can't actually see.
Yeah, the background. I
Oh,
can
darn.
see it, and occasionally, yeah, if you hold it in front of you. Oh, wow.
Oh, that's
And then you
gorgeous.
open it up, and the
Disappeared.
door
Yeah,
bursts.
if you can lower it down, probably it's disappeared amongst the red background.
Darn.
It's well, yeah, it's probably not going to work too well actually. But then on the back, the door is kind of empty, so it kind of is. It's contained and it's controlled, and then it explodes, and then it is finished.
Okay.
So I
Okay.
just wanted that sequence of. I wanted this sense of very complex rules and structures to sort of burst and then to disintegrate. And I feel that's pretty much the way the album is, kind of the theme of the album in a way. So it's quite abstract. It doesn't say society is bound by lots of rules and structures that we can't really control and contain. But it is quite an elegant way, an abstract way of showing it through that sequence. And I always imagine the exploding door with the light coming behind it would make a very good stage backdrop that you could kind of stand in the middle of the door in a way. In terms of symbolism of, did you say Hindu symbols?
Yeah, like Hindi. Yeah, I was looking at that because those are, the Vimana and mandalas are both Indian, come from like the Hindu. And I thought maybe perhaps there was another spiritual side that you were representing because, again, the name sermon, all those things work together.
No, yeah, I mean, it's a good theory actually. I'm probably a bit too not knowledgeable to have really got that, but it's not actually. You know where it's from? It's from Lord of the Rings.
Oh,
When they go into the mines.
Some door at Moria.
Moria. Uh-huh. Okay.
The door. And there was something about that door that glowed. I was like, that's
Yeah.
it. That's it.
Okay.
Okay, that's
Tolkien
awesome.
fan, nice. All right,
Sure.
well, I was way off there, but hey, that's all good.
Yeah. Well, no, it's a good theory, and actually, it's probably a bit misleading of me to have, a name like sermon. People are always going to think it's about religion. I just kind of think of a sermon as a sort of a congregation of a group of people being sort of preached at by another. And in the same, a band sort of functions in a similar way. So that's kind of why it's called that. But also to retain that sort of dark metal vibe, using a sermon as an ironic
No,
kind
I
of.
get it. It all works. Yeah. Well, you had mentioned touring. Do you get to tour a lot? I would imagine with this. I I mean, what is has been your touring schedule with this album with your band?
Nothing.
Really?
It's just not supported.
How disappointing.
Yeah, but it costs a fortune, and this is basically like a one-man band. So I also don't have a dream of playing in tiny little bars and pubs. I just don't think it would work. I'm not even sure James's kit would fit on the stage, to be honest.
Yeah.
But we've done one show, and it was in 2019, and it was supporting Opeth and Alcest and Tesseract at this festival in Poland. That was the first time I've ever been on stage in my life, and it was pretty terrifying because there was a few thousand people there. And it was okay. It went fine. In terms of actually touring, though, I've got a group of people who are willing to do it. It's just to even do a rehearsal is just an extraordinary amount of money to just, you need a week probably to flesh out all the songs and everything, and then go away on the tour. And then I'm just paying for 6 or 7 people to live and breathe. It's just not practical, and it's not going to get support from the label. Really, it's just not really financially. It's quite risky for them, really, to do something like that. I think if there was a big enough band, they would do it. Let's say like Ghost were like, hey, I'm sure the label would love that. But
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
just playing in like tiny bars and pubs around the UK or Europe is not a good idea. That said, I got an email from an American band who I'm not sure I can really mention it yet, but they're coming over next year, and they asked if we wanted to do a tour with them. And I said, we will absolutely do a London show because I can do that for nothing, basically. But doing 10 dates to me doesn't sound particularly good. However, I would consider going to Ireland or Scotland as well to kind of do some one-off shows, essentially, because I think that might actually get an audience. But yeah, no, we've had no offers otherwise.
Oh.
Is it mostly because like your vision is very theatrical, and so you need space to do the theatrical show that you really want to put on? Is that why you kind of need a certain size of a venue to?
No, because I think I could transform a small space quite well.
Okay.
I think the real problem is simply money. So I priced up rehearsal studio for us for a week. This is about the time when the album come out. To play like a show at the Black Heart in Camden, which is a tiny venue. But the rehearsal room was about £1,000 for 5 days. Flying James over, getting his kit to mine from Reading, and then hiring a van for a few days. Soon you're in about £2,000 territory. And then you're like, right, where's everyone going to stay? Okay, well, people can stay at my flat, or they can, I just don't have the money, because you could probably, to do one show is probably only a couple of thousand in the initial instance. But yeah, just the numbers weren't working. I've been offered a tour from another band, and they were like, yeah, so it's a European tour, 30 days. Buy on for the bus is £15,000. The thing is, it's actually good value. because that's 6 people traveling and accommodation for 30 days, which is not bad, but it's still 15,000 I don't have.
Yeah.
And I don't believe it's worth it.
Yeah, because
Even
will you make your money back, and then will it be financially worth it? And then taking a month off from work and all those other things that you have to do.
yeah, it's a labor of love. And I don't mind losing some money, but I couldn't really, like, my business has not done well enough this year for me to take that risk. So maybe in the next year. And I think we're going to do this tour with that American band, even if it's just a couple of shows. I think we're going to do it next year. I think it'd be good because I'd like to do it. It's designed to be played live, and it'll be off the chart epic.
I would love to see it. And if you do
Yeah.
if you do this live show, please record it.
I think
Audio, video. I would love to see a live performance.
I think it would be worth doing something like that, actually, and filming it properly.
Yeah.
Around the same time, because then we could probably prove to people that it's actually worth booking us and invest a little bit of money into it. It's sad that it comes down to money, but if you're one person, it's just tens of thousands, and it doesn't make any money either. Like, I've not ever seen a penny for Sermon at all. So
that's kind of that's kind of the where we're at with metal in a lot of ways. Like Montag and I, we grew up in the 80s where metal was huge, the hair bands plus the new wave of British heavy metal, and those bands were gigantic and they were filling stadiums. But man, I mean, now here we are in 2023 and the metal scene in the States here is mostly underground. Like there's a vibrant underground metal scene, but how many people know about it? And so it's like you mentioned, the financially it's a struggle, and these guys just trying to continue doing what they do and just try to live their lives as well and pay their bills, and it's very difficult. I feel like Europe has a little better metal scene, but you're obviously it's not what it used to be,
festivals. You have
unfortunately.
a lot more festivals.
Yeah.
The thing is, we've just never really been offered any. It came out at a funny time as well, the album. If it had come out the year before, I think maybe we might have got some offers for festivals in the UK. But the truth is, I don't actually know anyone in the music business really, aside from James or like Nicky Law or guys at Prosthetic, and they're not booking agents. They're not. I actually do think though that if you're signed to a label, doesn't matter how big or small, I do think that my job as an artist is to make music that's good. And I think I've fulfilled that part of the bargain. But I think the label's job is to make the band itself successful. And I don't think that they really could push the amount of money into it that you would need to make this thing take off. It would be enormous, and it's not worth the risk. So I understand, but it's a complex.
It's a shame. It's a shame because this music is so good and it's so different and exciting with all the pablum and all the junk out there. This is like this album just rises above, and I really do hope that you get on the tour, it becomes successful, or at least you're able to do something with it. Do a video that shows what you can do live, and just because this is just music, it's too good to not be successful.
I think we got good reviews, and I think that is telling us something, even if there's not a big audience really for it. If the reviews are good, then you should push it, right? But I don't think it really works that way. And from what I can figure out, the music industry itself, from the very top of the pyramid, like Spotify, to the bottom, kids playing in garages, it works like a pyramid scheme. You basically have to pay into the levels to get to the next level. And you sort of buy into the model more than you do into the product. You're not really shifting product enough to make the money to actually climb the ladder. You've kind of got to throw all your money into the idea of getting into the next stage. Something like Lamb of God back in the day, they were all working construction jobs while on tour with Slayer. Like, what does that tell you? That's crazy. You know, there's some of them never saw a penny in royalties. I'm sure they're doing fine now, but it was still years and years of self-belief and
Yeah.
nothing really
Right.
come in their way.
When they only get 10% or so, 9% from record sales,
Yeah,
you
yeah.
know, and then the record company puts all this money into getting them, you know, they're usually it takes 3 records for a band to break even, you know,
Yeah.
unless they really hit something huge and have 10 million sales on their first record, you know, which is unusual, you
I think,
know.
you know, it is a labor of love. And I
Yeah.
think that's fair. And I actually think for the label, like Prosthetic Records for EJ, yeah, I'm sure there's some money going through it, but it's a labor of love. He's not sat there on his ivory tower eating sturgeon caviar. Like it's not like that at all, is it? It's he's investing in bands to give them a leg up into the scene and see them fly the nest essentially. And they've done some, you know, they had Gojira, they had Lamb of God in the beginning. You know, they've had a and what's the other one with Tosin Abasi? That and so I watch you from afar, is that what they're called? They had them as well, and they're a really good platform for artists. But
Mm,
reality is, unless there's a load of money to chuck at something,
yeah.
you're just going to be sat here in a mask in your bedroom.
Well, I'd like to switch gears here.
Yeah, go for it.
And we're gonna ask you some hypothetical situations.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah,
Okay.
cool.
The first one. Okay,
Mhm.
we have an alien shows up and
Yeah.
asks you to represent metal in 3 songs. What would those songs be and why?
Uh, okay. The Sentinel by Judas Priest.
Mm.
Uh, then I'd probably move into something a little bit more. I'd probably give them the Leper Affinity by Opeth because I think the first 3 or 4 minutes of that song is probably more than you'd ever hear from any band in their whole career. And then it's also got the variety in which you can get from metal as well. And then I'd probably go with maybe we need something a little bit more blunt force. Actually, I'd do? I'd probably say something like Out the Gates, Slaughter of the
Mm,
Soul.
hmm.
It's almost a pop song, but it's rocking. So I think I don't know if I've got like the history of metal there, but I think there's some really catchy but interesting things that happen between those songs, I think.
Yeah, you staved off the invasion. The human
Mhm.
race is saved. Um, so,
Well
okay,
done.
yeah,
Well done.
thank you. The next one. If you could be any superhero for 24 hours, who would you be, and what would you do with your day of powers?
Could I be well actually that the thing is I'd quite like to be Batman just because I'd like a Batmobile and I'd also like to live like a billionaire lifestyle for a bit and I'd completely abuse that for a day. Like I would just I would yeah no I'd probably be dead by the end of the day if I had access to that much money and power. Um, the truth is, though, I think I'd probably go for something like Magneto. And I know he's not really
Mhm,
the hero, but I just think what he can do is it's you could probably do anything with it.
mhm. He's a very sympathetic villain. I never looked at him as a villain, you know. I
Yeah,
don't. Yeah,
he
he's
does
very
some
sympathetic.
he does some evil shit though. But I mean, he was brought up in a concentration camp, so
Yeah, and he's trying to, you know, he's being threatened, and he's trying to protect his own from people who are trying to kill them all. So I kind of get that. There, not a lot of villains are sympathetic. Some are just outright crazy, like Doc Ock and Spider-Man. He's just mentally, and you know, he's just, you know, a villain. But
yeah.
Magneto has always had a soft spot in my
I
heart.
think and also I think I'd just, I wouldn't try and like manipulate the world or people or anything so much. I think I'd like to just do a project that human beings otherwise probably couldn't do with it. I don't know, like build like a giant boat or something,
Yeah,
I'd like do
nice.
it really quickly. something really boring like that, really functional. I'd quite like to do that.
So that you have something left around after the on the next day, you still have your boat.
Yeah, I'll
that
have
you
my
built.
legacy. Yeah,
Nice.
my
Okay.
powers.
Nice.
The practical superhero
Right,
Yeah.
right.
approach.
Practito. Well, we are heavy metal horror, so I'd like to talk a little bit about horror. Are you a horror fan at all?
Sort of. I don't like films that use that cheap trick of long silences and loud bangs to make me
Mhm.
scared. But I have to say, I like watching. Basically, when I was probably about 14 or 15, I watched The Japanese Ring, and
Ah,
I couldn't sleep for weeks. Actually, to be honest, I've never watched it again since because I'm just terrified of it.
yeah. It's very spooky, especially the scene where she comes out of the TV. It's just like, oh fuck, that's just.
Yeah, because you're waiting for it for the whole film, and you
Mhm.
don't know what's going to happen, and then you see like the death face as well, which is
Yeah.
just the worst thing I've ever seen.
Yeah.
And for some reason, because it's like dimly lit and Japanese, it just makes it feel all that more frightening. I don't know why. So yeah, I like that. I also really like The Wicker Man, but I don't know whether
Mm.
you'd consider that horror. I think it's
Yeah, it's
really
horrific. There's definitely a horror to it. I mean, it was kind of redone with Midsommar. I don't know if you've seen that.
no. I've only watched the one with Christopher.
Not the remake with Nick Cage.
No,
No, no,
no,
the original one, Christopher Lee.
Christopher Lee. That's it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, that's a classic. Um, I'd like to share real quickly my Ringu story. The first time I watched Ringu, there's the scene where the two girls watch the video and then they get the phone call, and then that's how the dooms their death. So I'm watching this scene and realize, oh my God. And it's just and then you get to watch the video as well, so that you are partaking in what they've seen.
yeah.
As soon as that video ended, my phone rang. And I'm like, oh fuck, I'm dead. I'm like, if I answer that, there's gonna be someone. I mean, I know I'm dead now, so
Well,
good
I
thing
unplugged my TV.
yeah, good
That's
thing.
I used to just unplug my TV because
I sent the video to Dreadbull and then I've been fine. So that's good. Um, good. I'd like to ask some one-offs. These are just one-off questions that could be about anything. Okay. All right. What would you tell your childhood self about being a professional musician?
I'd say, I mean, it's, I'd say go for it. Definitely, because, it's not made me a fucking penny. It's cost me a shit ton of money. It's got me professionally nowhere really. But the sense of self-satisfaction and the idea that you're allowed to do what you want with your life is really important. So I would always encourage people to just do what they like doing, because if you like doing it, you're going to be able to absorb the inevitable failures that are going to happen. And that's really important for life.
Yeah, there is
Because
satisfaction in just doing it.
yeah, if you love something and laugh, it's not going to matter whether you fuck it up at all. You're going to keep going because you love doing it just for love,
Yeah,
love doing
that's why we
it.
do this show. No matter how many times we fuck it up, we keep on coming back.
Exactly. But I'd imagine that people would be like, oh, well, what's that going to amount to? Or you've maybe thought in your brain, oh, is this going to amount to anything? It's like, it doesn't matter, does it? It's about doing what you want to do with your own life. And maybe something will happen. And it's certainly more likely to happen and be more enjoyable if you like doing it. So I would encourage anyone to do it. I'd maybe say to my kid, if they want to do that, that's fine, they can do it. But to put all your eggs in one basket and not learn anything else, or not have like another kind of skill to like help support it, even, I think that would be a good idea. But because I'm not gonna pay your rent. So but yeah, I would encourage it. And I think it's really important. I think, but it's a ridiculous industry. So just hope for the best, I guess, and try to enjoy it.
There you go.
Did you ever set up a plan B for yourself? Was music just always going to be the thing you did with your life, and that
So music is just not a part of my life. It's really not. Aside from this, I haven't picked up a guitar for about a year. I by trade, I am a designer. So I make like logos and books and websites and whatever, and which is helpful for doing something like this. And I kind of do this when I can or when the opportunity is right. I'd never really dreamt of being a performer because I don't like it. I don't. It doesn't appeal to me very much. But I do like writing songs, and it would be nice if I could write music for a living. I would enjoy that, I think. But I've never really sat there and tried to do it. You know, not for like scoring films and TV programs and adverts and stuff. I've never tried to do it, but maybe one day, maybe when I've relaxed the other parts of my life a little bit more potentially. But I don't think I'll make it big in metal at all. I think I'll make some nice albums, but in terms of a career, unless someone was like, "Hey, do you want to headline Download Festival or Wacken?" It's probably never going to happen. So that sounds very sad, doesn't it? But
no, well, I mean, it's if that's where you're at, I mean, this is where you're at.
I enjoy it though. Like probably like you guys enjoy it somewhat. I'm not living to. No, this isn't my life. It's just a nice part of it.
Right. Yeah.
Gotcha.
No, that's good. That's good. We have things in perspective. Creative people tend to create things and go on. We all are creative and in our own ways, and very few people make their living doing just that. Like Stephen King, everyone knows he's a horror writer, but he has a band on the side because he doesn't want to think about writing all day. So he is. I get that. I get that.
And I think to us, like, excuse me, we listen to the album, we listen to your music, and like, wow, this is fantastic. Like, and so in our minds, this is a band that's a band. Like these guys, they've got to be big. Like they got to be doing, making a living off this because it's so damn good. Like, and so we just automatically make that assumption. Like this is good, so therefore it's got to be making
it's
money,
successful, right?
They got to be out touring and supporting this and playing to big, audiences and stuff. And so to hear otherwise, like, oh, okay,
it's a bit
damn,
sad, isn't
that
it?
is sad.
It is
sad.
I have to say, most of I listen to interviews with musicians fairly often, and I'm surprised how many of them don't say that they do other jobs. But I know they do because I've heard from James that they do, and even James actually. When he was playing Invader, and he lived in the UK because the UK is quite an expensive place to live. He was working for like the NHS, which is it's like our healthcare sort of provider in a call center, and that's what he was doing for. And actually, I think even in Ghost, Tobias was working at like a call center for quite a while before he could make the plunge going full time into Ghost. And they rose very quickly. As soon as James Hetfield and Dave Grohl put on that T-shirt, that was it. So I think it is surprising how many people they work normal jobs, but they do.
Mm-hmm.
But
most of the bands we interview, most of them, this is something they do on the side. They might have had success in their other areas, but they still have a job they do, and then they take time off to tour or whatever,
I don't mind my life being like that actually. Like James is full-time drummer for Decapitated and Belphegor and God knows how many other bands. And he's fortunate enough to he makes enough money to do that and live in Poland and have a nice life. But it's taken him years. Like it really has a struggle as well. There's a lot of sacrifice. You have to sacrifice relationships and security. It's a hard life. And I don't mind this being a part-time thing or like the alter ego of my life. I kind of like my day job sometimes. I like meeting people and I'm not.
And then you get the anonymity with the mask, so they probably don't know that you're him. I mean, as well.
That's the reason I have the mask, really, is because I want to be known for my trade by name.
Yeah.
But they don't see Sermon.
Right.
I want them to know me as a designer.
Sure. No, that's great. That's awesome.
It kind of works.
Well, out of time consideration, because I don't want to
Yeah,
take
don't
much.
rush. We can.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, we have a couple games that we'd like to play.
Yeah, go for it.
And this first game is called Blast Beats. And I'm going to ask you a question, and I just want, series of questions, so you just answer as quickly as possible. Most of them are a little multiple choice, or choose
Cool.
one or two. Okay. First one, favorite pizza topping,
Pepperoni,
paperback or Kindle,
paperback,
PC or Apple,
Apple,
favorite streaming service,
Spotify,
favorite cartoon character,
or Homer Simpson,
favorite ice cream flavor,
rum raisin,
dog or cat,
dog,
Marvel or DC,
DC,
Star Trek or Star Wars,
Star Wars,
Bigfoot or Loch Ness Monster,
Loch Ness Monster,
Dracula or Frankenstein.
Dracula,
How do you like your steak cooked?
medium rare.
Favorite sport?
I don't probably chess because I don't understand sport.
Favorite movie snack?
Oh, well, a cinema.
Mhm.
Probably sweet popcorn. I'm a child.
All right. Your favorite subject in school?
Art,
Your favorite board game?
chess,
Spielberg or Tarantino?
probably Spielberg.
Your favorite Christmas gift?
I got a Megazord when I was a kid.
Nice.
Blue.
Your celebrity crush?
That is a good question. I don't think about that a lot. Oh fuck! What are they? What's the name?
Maybe we can help you. What?
Oh no! I'll get you. Anne Hathaway.
Oh,
Ah.
okay. Yeah, good choice.
Yeah.
The best concert you've ever attended?
Probably Opeth Lamentations, but Tool would be up there.
Okay. And the last one, your favorite line from or scene from This Is Spinal Tap?
Okay, so my favorite scene, not a line, but my favorite scene is when they go and they've commissioned Stonehenge to be built, and it's tiny.
Yeah.
And every time that just fucking slays me. It's just so good. Such
I
a
saw
good-
Spinal Tap when they came on the Break Like the Wind tour. They came to Cleveland. So of course, they got the Hello Cleveland thing. I'm like, oh, that was awesome.
Oh, yeah.
That was a great show. Yeah, they did an urban version of Sex Farm, which was quite amazing. Okay, game is called the Hot Seat.
Right.
Because it tends to make people squirm. I'm going to name a band, and I want you to tell me your favorite album by that band.
Okay.
Okay, Black Sabbath,
Oh, fucking hell.
You're already squirming.
Master of Reality.
okay, Judas Priest,
Defenders of the Faith.
Queensryche,
I'm only really familiar with Operation Mindcrime, so I have to say that.
okay, Iced Earth,
I don't like them.
okay, Motorhead,
Not a fan.
okay, Carcass,
Heartworks, probably.
it's brilliant.
Great album.
Dio,
Whoa. Is it called Holy Diver? The
yeah,
album?
Mhm.
It's that one because it's just got song
Yeah.
after song of.
yeah. Oh,
I
it's a great
do
album.
like a lot of them. I actually really like Rainbow.
Mhm. Yeah, that's good.
Anything that Ronnie James Dio was in,
Pretty much,
almost anything.
yeah. I like Neon. I was gonna say Neon Nights actually with Black Sabbath, but it's a great album. It does after a while it actually drags a little bit. Like it is just Dio being Dio. like
Mm.
waving around, which is cool, but I have to be in the mood for it. But yeah.
Yeah. The Beatles.
Do you know what I'm going to say Abbey Road, because at my dad's funeral we played Here Comes the Sun, and so I just really, yeah. So it's got a special place, but you know what, it could easily be Sergeant Pepper's as well.
Our condolences. Loss of your father.
Oh, it's all right. It was years ago now.
Okay. Rush.
Don't listen to them that much, but XY is it XY?
YYZ. That's on Moving
I see.
Pictures.
That's it. Sorry. Yeah. I haven't
Okay.
listened to it in so long. Rush, actually.
This is generally why we call this hot seat.
Yeah.
People feel really bad if they don't know a band well, or just don't like them. So they get really squirmy if they feel bad if they don't know albums from a certain
Especially
band.
people who are more steeped in the metal scene. They're like almost like embarrassed, like, oh, I should know this
Yeah.
band better. I'm like, hey, you can't know everybody.
I feel really bad for not liking Radiohead. That's my biggest guilt.
They're hit and miss for me. I like some of their stuff. Other stuff, it's just too dreamy. It's like I'm gonna fall asleep. Like, get me up, get me going.
If it's one thing I've learned doing this show for the last couple of years is like how little I know about the amount of metal out there that I didn't know about. Like, oh my God, I'm embarrassed to realize like how much music I have not been exposed to, and kind of how small the things I listen to have gotten over the years as I've gotten older.
Yeah. No, I have the same shame. So hopefully the round it doesn't fuck me up too much.
Well, we got a few more in the hot seat. Opeth. What next one on the list?
It's either, I think, if I had a gun to my head, I'd probably say Blackwater Park, but I was going to say Still Life.
King Diamond or Merciful Fate. I know you said you were a Merciful Fate fan.
Abigail, isn't it? Is that the one?
Abigail.
Yeah, that's my favorite. Again, it's
well.
been so long since I listened, but yeah,
Classic.
All right. Iron Maiden.
Not a fan.
Oh, okay. Two more.
Right, but yeah. I'm not really gone into the discography, if you know what I mean.
Yeah. Okay. Two more. Slayer.
It's got to be Rain and Blood.
All right. And Kiss.
Do you know I've never actually got through a full Kiss album? I always go to the best ofs because I'm a sucker.
Nice.
So I'm going to just say a best of, like a
okay.
Fan.
That's fine. That's fine. We're going to play a game now called Name That Festival.
Oh, okay.
Sermon is playing a festival because you had mentioned, if you're playing a festival, like, oh, we got a game for you. Sermon is playing a festival with two other artists. I'm going to spin the wheel of mystery to find these two other bands, and then I'd like you to name the festival that you're all playing at. So give me a second to share my screen.
Wait, so it is the name. Is it actually a festival, or am I making up a festival?
This is all made up.
It's all made up. You're gonna make up. You're gonna make up the name of the festival. So
based on the two bands,
based on Sermon and these two bands all together, randomly pick, and it could be anybody. We have metal. We have everybody here. Oh, Billy Joel. Okay, so Billy Joel. And so Sermon and Billy Joel.
Maybe we should also ask who will headline this festival.
Oh, Billy Joel. Oh no, Bruce Springsteen.
Wow.
It's gonna be
wow.
Bruce, Billy Joel, and Sermon.
Okay, look at that.
Okay.
Oh, this is a toughie.
I think I've got one.
Okay.
Masters and a Servant.
Oh,
right.
Nice.
Very nice.
Servant.
I like it.
Servants. Because it seems to me that you've got two titans and then you've just got someone who has no idea. I will be bowing to those two men. Apparently, he doesn't let rich people buy front seat tickets. He gives people those front seat tickets to people at the back who are really going to appreciate it.
Wow. So who does? Bruce?
No, Billy Joel.
Billy Joel? Wow.
Yeah, he's a cool guy. So yeah, I bow to that man. Oh, what do you want me to do? I'll do it.
Oh, if he comes on the show, I'll let him know. We got a headliner. We got an opening act for you. We just got a few more questions for you. The next one is about fandom. We are all fans of other artists. What is your favorite piece of memorabilia?
Oh, that's a good question.
Like an autographed T-shirt,
I,
poster, something.
yeah. I actually, I used to have, I used to keep the plectrum that I got at that Opeth Lamentations gig. And it was a black Jim Dunlop, it was like quite a thick gauge, and it just had the little Opeth logo on it. And it was like charcoal gray, and I just thought it was the coolest thing in the world. But it did get lost probably about 10 years ago. But that was my favorite thing I
Whose
had.
pick was it?
I think it was Peter's.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. But yeah, that's probably the thing I remember most, actually.
Nice. And
Montag, do you still have Dave Murray's sweatband?
I do.
Caught?
I do.
Okay,
I have all the
excellent.
memorabilia. I've got some
Yeah.
pics from a Kiss concert. I've got, we saw Iron Maiden Seventh Son tour, and Dreadbull and I were standing next to one another, seventh row on the floor. Dave Murray throws his wristband out, and I casually knock my best friend in the world out of the way so I could grab the sweatband, and I still have it. And then
I was right there waiting for that thing too. And
yeah, no, you're not going to get it. No. Sorry. And then when I saw Dave Murray a couple of years later, met him actually, I of course was very nervous and scared. I'm like, I got your wristband in 1988 in Cleveland. You threw it, and I caught it. And he's like, oh, okay. I'm like, yeah, that was a good entrance there, Montag. I'm sure he's gonna remember that. Like, yeah, some giddy little schoolgirl was talking about how she caught my wristband. Yeah, but I've relaxed since then. I wouldn't be nearly as I would still tell him the story, but he would probably think it was funny now, that
I'd probably tell them after I think they like me a bit more. Like you do the basic kind of try to not let them know that you adore them. Yeah, and then bring out the crazy.
Yeah, right. It's just kind of like in was it Misery? Kathy Bates's character, right? I'm your number one fan. Pay no attention to the sledgehammer. I'm not going to hobble you.
It's tough to put up a brave front, though. Right off the bat.
It is,
That's tough.
Yeah. I mean, the first time, this is again, 30 years ago. It was much longer than that, and I was just, I didn't expect to get to meet them, and it was like, oh, here I am meeting my musical heroes. But I'm so much cooler now.
I actually remember I met Will Smith once, and it blew my fucking mind. And the one thing I regret from the transaction of he was so cool, but I didn't get to smell him, and I really wish I did. I bet he smelled so good. So yeah, but yeah, no, he was super cool. I really liked him.
Oh,
that would really lock it into your memory too.
Yeah.
So
if
you ever caught a whiff of that cologne again,
the same smell, it would take me back.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. Or talked about his wife. You could have walked away with a slap story. I
would have quite enjoyed if he'd slapped me.
He probably gets requests now.
I'd sue him for so much as well, and then I'd be like,
yeah, that could be like his OnlyFans thing. Only smacks, or smack fans. Yeah, I was going to do an OnlyFans page called Mark Smokes, and I'm just going to watch, smoke cigars and have people pay me to watch, smoking cigars.
Have you seen that OnlyFans of a guy that just puts videos of fans up? It's really good.
Nice.
Really good.
Nice. So, and our final question, what are your plans for 2023, 2024?
Well, it's been as I sort of mentioned before, it's been a bit of a rough year actually, business wise. So I've had to essentially change what I do somewhat. So I need to get myself back on my feet. I don't know what's going to happen with Sermon actually. I'm a bit lost creatively. I'm not sure where to turn. But we might be doing that tour, and maybe at least a show or something will reawaken a kind of a spark to get it going again. Because I found, to be honest with you, I found the release of Golden Verse quite quite painful, actually.
Mm,
It got good reviews, but I still felt like we were releasing this thing to a room of no one.
mm-hmm.
It was quite hard to go through it because I just
Yeah.
felt, and that sounds really arrogant, actually, in a way. But
No.
it's I suppose I thought before it came out, I'd been sat on it for years, and I was like, I can't wait for this to be released. I don't even know if it's good, but I'd sort of hoped that it would, be like, okay, now we'll get some offers to like do a show, or we would get offers to be places. But we didn't. We simply didn't, and it's a bit disheartening, I have to say. But
No. No.
we'll see. We'll see how 2024 goes. There's some things on the horizon, maybe.
Mhm. Well, I appreciate your honesty and your candor about that. I mean, um, no, I kind of get that. I've made some schlocky, silly movies. I mean, they've done okay, but I also write books, and some of the books that I expect to do well because they've been received very well just don't sell.
Yes.
And so I get it. I mean, the people who read them contact me and say, "Boy, I really like this." I'm like, "Well, that's great, but I need to sell more than 3 copies of something,
Yeah.
or whatever it is, and I just don't keep track anymore." And but no, I understand that because you put your energy and your drive into it, and you appreciate the people who it resonates with. I mean, because that's a creative endeavor, but you still kind of expect it to do better because you kind of know at the end of the day, like, man, I know I've created something that's can stand up to other things out there, and it's like
Yeah.
wondering where at did it not resonate enough,
I think I if I'm being honest, part of that it would be my fault maybe, and part of it would be just that there's not enough like physical funding to put it in front of people, and um, maybe it's not quite there yet. I don't think. I mean, if I'm not saying we're the same band at all, or have
Mhm.
the same trajectory, or um, potential for stardom, but like
Mhm.
no one cared about Opeth until Blackwater Park, and that was album 5.
Yeah, yeah, it
And
was a breakthrough album. I mean, there are other albums were good, but I think
yeah, they're stunning,
so,
and Still Life was beautiful as well. But
yeah.
it until they got onto a bigger label and they had it produced in a different way, it didn't really hit. But My Arms Rehearse and Still Life, they are magical, magical records,
Mhm.
and
The zeitgeist wasn't there. It just didn't resonate enough. And
yeah,
I love the stuff they're doing now. I know a lot of the diehard fans don't like their new style because Ackerfeld's not singing the death metal vocals. So I love, like, Pale Communion. I think is one of their best
I think
albums.
yeah, I
It's
think that's one of the best albums as well.
Oh, it's just so fucking brilliant, and the river is almost like bluegrass, and country.
Amazing. The ending of that song is just,
Yes, yeah.
I also think, I mean, I know they get that criticism quite a lot, but a lot of the time, I'm not quite convinced that it's the prog side of things. I would say that it's like Heritage, for example. I think it's more like some of the songs are just fucking clumsy.
Mm-hmm.
They stop and start. Transitions happen out of nowhere. It doesn't make sense in places. Kind of sounds like a rip off Jethro Tull in
Mm,
places.
mm-hmm. Like the
But
Wildflowers.
because Damnation did incredibly well,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
that was pure, but that didn't have any death metal vocals at
No,
all.
no. And it
I
came out
think
the same year as what? Deliverance came out. They both came out the same year, right?
I would honestly put it down to the quality of the songs on, say, Heritage, and I
Mm,
I think it's a brave move, and I admire it more than I like it for sure.
hmm
Um, but Pale Communion, as you say, is really good. I actually quite enjoy Sorceress. I
Yeah.
still
It took a
haven't,
while to get into it. A couple listens before it
yeah.
started getting with me. But then I get into, like, okay, this is a great album.
The new album, I've never got through the whole thing, but
Mm.
I love the opening song.
Mhm.
Well, is it the second song? There's like an
Second
intro.
song. The first one's like musical, and
Yeah,
it bleeds right into the second track. Yeah.
yeah. I mean, I love prog. I mean, but there's just bits of it I'm not too keen on.
hmm
I don't like things that sound too fruity,
hmm
if that makes sense. I don't like syncopated, like noodly keyboards that sound like kind of almost like sort of fusion jazz. It doesn't do a lot for me in the world of Opeth in a way. But
hmm
I like the dark, epic things.
hmm
That's, and I want to
Yeah.
hear a chorus and a beautiful voice. That's what I want.
Yeah. Yeah,
I don't
my
give a
Harlequin
shit.
Forest is one of those songs where people ask
Yeah.
me, like 3 songs for Opeth. I give them that, and I give them something off of, Eternal Rains Will Come. Something, I give them a variety. Said, look, this you can't. One song's not enough for this band. And so I totally get it. But
Yeah.
before we let you go, would it be
Yeah.
possible to get a bumper from you, just to say, hey, this is him of Sermon, and you are watching Heavy Metal Horror? Would you be able to do that for us?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Shall I take it away?
Go ahead.
Is it going to be in the evening or the morning? Or...
We always release Fridays at like 8 o'clock in the morning, but anytime. I mean, it's just a general bumper that we are going to be putting in the show.
Yep.
I have all the bumpers, and I just kind of insert them in the beginnings of all of our episodes, so it'll circulate.
Okay, cool. Okay. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. This is him from Sermon, and you're listening to Heavy Metal Horror.
Perfect. Thank you.
That was great.
That was great.
Great.
Yeah. Right. Thank you so much for spending your time with us today, him. It has been wonderful to get to meet you, and look, if you just are running into a wall creatively and you just want to have a drink with us, we're always around. Just let you
Oh,
know.
that's really sweet. Actually, that might be quite fun one time, actually. Yeah.
I'm totally serious. Yeah. And
Yeah, we just hung out last weekend with Justin, the bass player for the band Sorcerer. Don't know if you know those guys or not, but
Yeah.
he just came. We just hung out via Zoom. It wasn't a show or anything.
No,
Just had
we
a
just
few
talked.
drinks, and we talked for like 3 hours with
3
the guy.
hours.
Just about whatever, about anything. So it was
Life
just this
and-
casual little
Oh,
hangout.
maybe I could like
So
bounce
fun.
some riffs off you or something. That'd be
Oh
cool.
God,
Oh, absolutely.
we're
Yeah.
happy to help in any way. And if you throwing it out there, we can talk after the show. I do video editing, and so if you do decide to make a live video and you have multiple cameras, I'll be happy to help assist putting it
Oh,
together.
that'd be cool too. Yeah,
So
no, that's
yeah,
really
I would love that. So
Thank you so much.
well, we're gonna do our wonderful outro, and then we'll let you go. So hey, you can find Heavy Metal Horror on unsaneradio.com. Listen to full episodes or download to your device. You can find us on Facebook, Heavy Metal Horror Podcast. On Instagram, look for Montag Lewis, one word. Our YouTube page, Heavy Metal Horror Podcast. Don't forget to hit the like and subscribe button, because if you're watching on YouTube, that's where you're at. And if you know someone who'd like our show, tell them about us. This has been Montag, Master of Illusion.
Dreadbull, Master of Nothing.
Yeah. And him, we're going to invite you to bring up the horns as we say our Heavy Metal Horror outro. You've been watching and listening to. All right, him, bring up the horns. Heavy Metal Horror.
This is Doug Helvering, and you have been listening to Heavy Metal Horror, the best podcast that you've never heard before.